Hi, this is Jared Polak, founder of Entre Results, author of Entre Balance and newly released Entre Business. Check it out on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. Hey, listen, a lot of feedback from the book, still trying to add extra value for those that have read it or those of you guys that are still going to read it. And we're going to look at the fourth principle today. Find out what motivates your employees and use it to manage them. It's all about motivation today. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a little self-analysis and ask a few questions of ourselves and see if maybe this is a principle that we need to work on. Then I'm going to give you a couple action items that you can do immediately to start getting better at motivating your employees. So the first thing I want to do is kind of go over briefly the 8 different ways to motivate your employees. Number one is, and these are the motivational personalities people have, and so we need to kind of focus on hitting people up in these 8 ways. Okay, number 1, sense of belonging. Number 2 is public recognition. Number 3 is private recognition. Number 4 is monetary reward. Number 5 is fear of consequences. Number 6 is competition. Number 7 is significance or purpose. And number 8 is life balance. So in terms of the self-analysis, the first thing we want to do is look at the 8 different ways, which we just kind of went over. And then I want to ask yourself this question: what is your top motivational style? If you thought through those 8, which of those 8 most resonates with you? And the question is, are you using this as your primary motivational tool for your people, your employees? If so, you probably need to work on this principle. A second question is, if you think about the list, what doesn't motivate you on the list? So think to all those 8, maybe there's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever that don't motivate you at all. So think about that, and the question is, have you recently used one of those areas to motivate your team? Meaning, the ways that don't motivate you, are you using those to motivate your team occasionally? And if you have not been, then probably this principle is something you need to work on. The third kind of self-analysis question is, this is kind of funny, but when you look at some of these motivational areas, are there any that you are literally think is just a big waste of time, a joke, stupid? Almost, is there anyone that you have a real negative attitude of these 8? So if you have that mindset, be honest with yourself. I mean, I remember when I was learning motivation, I would see 1 or 2 and be like, what in the world? Why would anyone want to be motivated that way? And so that was my own limiting belief. That was my own ignorance, to be honest with you. And so if you have a negative perspective on any of these 8, then perhaps this is a principle you need to work on. And finally, have you given your team any assessments, or have you simply asked your team recently what motivates them of these 8? Now, this is something, if you don't have a team, you can obviously look at yourself introspectively as well and think these through. And also, if you have vendors you work with, or you can use these principles as parenting, and there's a lot of different ways you can use this, but we're looking at it primarily from a business sense. So here are some action items. All right, so you asked those 4 questions. Maybe you need to work on this. Here's some things you can specifically do. Number 1 is go through these 8 areas and write down 1 to 3 things you could potentially do to motivate your team in each of these 8 areas. So for example, if you look at private recognition, one thing you could possibly do is write a handwritten thank you note to someone on your team. Very personal, very private, give good feedback, but it's not in front of a group. Or remembering a birthday could be private recognition, as long as, but if you sing a happy birthday in front of everybody, that would be public recognition. Or if someone wins an award and you publicly recognize them in front of the team, that would be public recognition. So go through those and write 1 to 3 items that you could potentially motivate your team with each area. Number 2, with your team or others, include them in some of these brainstorming, in some of this process. Ask your team, what are some things we can do as a company to motivate each other? Third is give them a DISC profile. I know I talk a lot about DISC. It can be used in a variety of different ways. It doesn't specifically go into these 8, but when you take the DISC, it shows you some different characteristics that relate to these 8 that you can use. And it's an outside source. It's obviously non-biased, and so that is the third thing you can do. And finally, of course, it's all about implementation. So choose one of those new ideas that you had and go ahead and implement one of those ideas this week. All right, so there we go. Go out, have fun motivating your team and your employees, and have a better than amazing day.